Welcome to viewers. You're still watching us on ERi-TV, presenting you the domestic and international news prepared for this session live from our headquarters in Asmara. I'm Herman Lagermai, inviting you to join us on our tonight's news broadcast. Let's start with the major headlines. Activity assessment meeting of PFDJ office in Central Region. Training on arts to youth in Central Region. Japan's cabinet approved $785 billion budget for the next fiscal year. And Turkey detains 115 Islamic State group suspects planning New Year's attacks. In your domestic in brief, the office of the PFDJ in the Central Region conducted an activity assessment meeting for 2025 and held discussions on the plan of action for 2026 on 27th December. Mr. Yusuf Saeq, head of organizational affairs of the PFDJ, said that commendable activities have been carried out in strengthening organizational capacity, enhancing public contribution to augment the Martyrs Trust Fund, and support families of martyrs, as well as providing training in social sciences. He also stated that the programs will continue in earnest. Mr. Yusuf further noted that the overall programs implemented by the public and government institutions will have significant input and serve as a stepping stone in the implementation of the 2026 programs. He added that training cadres and enabling them to enhance their contribution to national affairs is one of the main programs planned for 2026. At the meeting, in which administrators, heads of units, public organizations, and civil organizations took part, reports focusing on social, economic, security, political, organizational, and greening campaign programs were presented by the concerned heads. The participants conducted extensive discussions on the reports presented and adopted various recommendations, including strengthening women's organizations, enhancing public contribution to the Martyrs Trust Fund, implementing community-based popular campaigns, as well as promoting voluntary blood donation. The Culture and Sports Department in the Central Region provided training in dancing, drama, and musical instruments to 131 youths, including 52 females in the region, indicating that various activities have been initiated to enhance the capacity of youth based on their inclinations with a view to preserving the culture of society and transferring it to future generations. Mr. Asmarom Tsagarahan, Director General of the department, said that the program will continue in earnest. According to a report by Mr. Siraj Mahmoud, Head of Culture in the region, the training was provided to youth from the 13 subzones of the region and was conducted over the period of 3 months. Mr. Siraj urged the trainees to further develop their skills through continuous practice and to include youth from all subzones of the region. Mr. Zaritul Abraham, Managing Director in the region, on his part, commended the presentations by the trainees, reflecting the results of the training, and called on all concerned institutions to expand and deepen the program so that all subzones of the region can take part. At the event, certificates of recognition were presented to trainees, trainers, as well as those who contributed to the successful implementation of the program. The viewers, stay tuned for our international news right after the short break. Welcome back. Japan's cabinet approved today a record of $785 billion budget for the next fiscal year, aiming to strike a balance between its proactive fiscal policy and debt blowout concerns by limiting new bond issuance. The budget for the year starting from April to be submitted to Parliament early next year will totally a record of $784.63 billion, exceeding this year's initial budget. The Prime Minister's administration also compiled a record defense budget of over $57.89 billion for fiscal 2026, an increase of 3.8% from the previous year. Faced with rising government bond yields and weak yen, Japan's government has stepped up efforts to reassure investors that it will not resort to irresponsible debt issuance or tax cuts. In other news, Turkish authorities say they have disrupted planned attacks on Christmas and New Year's events after detaining more than 100 suspected members of the so-called Islamic State group. Mass raids were carried out at 124 addresses across Istanbul, with firearms, ammunition and organizational documents seized. Officials said the Islamic State group supporters had been actively planning attacks across Turkey this week, particularly against non-Muslims. Police detained 115 suspects, but efforts are ongoing to trace a further 22, an official statement read. The announcement comes 2 days after Turkish intelligence agents carried out a raid against the group on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Turkey's security services regularly target people with suspected links to Islamic State groups. The country shares a 900-kilometer border with Syria, where the group continues to operate in parts of the country. Syria's President Ahmed al-Shara, who has close ties to the Turkish government, has vowed to work with the US and Europe to root out surviving elements of the IS. The US launched a wave of airstrikes against the group's positions across Syria in response to the killing of 3 of its citizens, 2 US soldiers and a civilian interpreter during an ambush earlier this month. Dear viewers, we are done with the news prepared for this session, and now it's time for a quick recap of the major headlines. Activity assessment meeting of PFDJ office in Central Region. Training on arts to youth in Central Region. Japan's cabinet approved $785 billion budget for the next fiscal year. And Turkey detains 115 Islamic State group suspects planning New Year's attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, that was all for tonight. Thank you for having us and have a blessed one. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.